Skolt. This is Skolt Scott, Joe Johnson, Joe Oberle from the Mermaid Entertainment and Event Center in Mounds View. We're here doing the 3 Deep podcast from sponsored by Vikings Journal and Purple PTSD websites with blogs that both Joes write for. Of course, I'm Skolt Scott, super fan in the Vikings World Order, 3-star general. Enough about that for now. More will be talked about that over time. Joe Johnson, the owner of Purple PTSD, writer, blogger, extraordinaire.
That is correct.
According to some people. Not all, but anyway.
I'll take it.
Then we have Joe.
Read it.
And then Joe Oberle, senior writer with Vikings Journal and other outlets as well.
NFL Post, I should say the Sports Post. I cover the NFL.
Good job. Yeah, done that for a long time, haven't you?
Yeah, a few years.
A few years. He's not admitting how many, so we're not going to put him on the spot. But we're here talking Vikings. We've got a few things to talk about today. First of all, we want to, of course, give Mermaid a shout out for letting us be here to do these podcasts. And as we get going with these things, we'll be recording these on Tuesday nights at the Mermaid. So if you're a Viking fan, you want to come out, join in on the conversation, be a part of the show sometime, we're going to work you in if you want to do that. Or if you just want to listen and hear what we have to say, have to talk about, see some of the stuff that we have, and special guests that will come by throughout the year too. Because I know plenty of super fans, as most of you know. And some other old Vikings that I'll try to certainly bring by. And if we can, whomever we can get for guests and some other guests that are in and around football and things that do with that, you want to check it out. So by all means. And thanks for the Mermaid for letting us be here. We certainly appreciate that. A lot of great stuff going on here at Mermaid. Bowling, darts, pool, game room, sports bar, food, all that kind of stuff. So,
Popcorn.
I don't know if that's their biggest seller, but
It's free.
They got it.
They got it. So yeah, there you go. Popcorn.
Free
Let's
popcorn.
just see if they do purple popcorn. I don't know. But I digress. Starting out the show today, we want to talk about the new stadium, U.S. Bank Stadium. It's opening up now.
There's a new stadium.
What?
There is a new stadium, yes.
I hadn't heard. There's been nothing in the news.
That's just been like part of my life for I don't know how many years, and I have friends, who were involved in this thing 14, 15 years in the making and pushing for it. Myself, I always joke it was a part-time, non-paying job for about 4 or 5 years. Really was a lot of work, but this thing is built, it's up, it's going to be opening soon. I'm looking forward so much to going in and touring it like 3 or 4 times before we even play a game. If they let me sneak in, well, I guess if they let me in, that wouldn't be sneaking. But I'm looking forward to seeing it though. A lot of pictures have been out there, a lot of discussion because U.S. Bank Stadium, that's its official name. That's what they're paying for. That's what the Vikings organization will always call it.
Yeah.
But every stadium gets nicknamed.
Yep.
So we want to talk about that a little bit. There have been some put out there a lot, and we've got an idea that we want to pitch ourselves here. So what do you guys, Joe's? Go ahead and jump in here. What your thoughts on stadium nicknames?
Well, it's interesting what you said that every stadium has a nickname, and I think that started after all these corporate sponsors started buying up the name. I mean, nobody wanted to, nobody could affectionately, get next to a corporate sponsor name for their home field for their team.
Definitely.
So I think that started coming in, and the TCF Bank became the bank, and now we have U.S. Bank Stadium, which I like. And I'm not sure everybody else does, but I like to call it the Vault. I thought first time I heard it, it was great. Just like the first time I heard 3D for this sportscast, I thought it was great. And it's kind of one of those gut feelings. Now there's been some others. I know that Joe has written an article about this whole thing recently.
Yeah. I don't know. The thing with me and like I said in my article with the Vault is it's just a play off of the sponsorship name. It doesn't really reference the team. It just is derivative of the fact that it's a bank, so it's kind of logically you're doing the same thing. It's different. So I think I snagged a poll from Daily Norseman, and I think the Vault had like 8%, but it was.
You are correct.
I said it was like the early Republican primaries because there's no majority. I think Valhalla had the most at 38%, and nothing behind that beat 15%. But Skolt has an idea that wasn't listed. I, being a comic book nerd that is going to die alone, think that the Bifrost might be pretty cool because of the Thor movies, and it's pointed just like the edge of the stadium, and it's...
I get your architectural takes.
Yeah.
The Bifrost, those were the bad guys, though, in the Thor movie.
No, those are the Frost Giants.
The Frost Giants were bad guys.
We can get into this.
Yeah. They were kind of cool.
The Frost Giants.
They would be
The
cool.
Bifrost, I thought was cool because it's
Yeah.
frosty.
That sounds like we're just the Vikings are freezing out their opponents every other time.
Frozen tundra.
Bifrost. I mean, not every time.
Yeah.
Once.
The stadium is indoors.
Yeah, I get what you mean mathematically. But your idea, I hadn't heard before, to be honest.
Well, yeah, and I was saying it kind of came to me. I'm looking at some pictures of the new stadium, the interior after the football field is all laid, and everything's kind of set in the main part of the stadium. You're seeing the purple seats all over the place, and I'm like, this is the Purple Palace.
Yeah.
That's what hit me. It's like, hey, where's this nickname out there? This should be used. This is our palace. This is where we play. This is where we go. Solid purple with all the seats and everything, which we love the color here. So yeah, that's what I'm going to pitch now. The Purple Palace.
It's got some nice alliteration, but
I like that part of things too.
football is on a gridiron, and it's. I was in Chicago this weekend, and I went out to Soldier Field, and where they have battles, and they have.
Sure.
They go to war to a certain extent. And I love those old columns of Soldier Field, and then they plop down the spaceship right in the middle of it.
There you go.
But Palace seems like a place of luxury. It's where you can have crown jewels. If you ever win a championship, you can put them there.
We will.
So I'm not going to go against it, but in a vault is where you store your wins and you slam the door shut like the vault. This is a little more.
Yeah.
That's what I like about it. It's even phonetically it sounds quick and to the point.
I can just see in my head us losing like a NFC Championship game at home, and
Hey.
just in bold letters the Star Tribune saying like the vault was robbed, something like that.
Oh, that's going to help me pitch against that one now a little bit because I don't want to be robbed. To go back against what you're saying there, Joe, though. A palace is a place that kings rule. We are the Vikings. We are ruling this place. This is going to be the best stadium, and I'm saying it flat out. This is going to be the best stadium in the world, bar none. Someone's going to have to go crazy building a $2 billion thing, to beat this out, and that's not happening anytime real soon. So this is going to be the crown jewel, and a palace is where kings live for winning their battles and that kind of thing too. So
it's also a dive bar in Northeast Minneapolis that I'm literally no longer allowed.
Well, we won't go into that.
That's an article in and of itself.
Edit that part out, Joe. Okay.
The sponsorship opportunity.
And the Vikings gods, Valhalla. That's where they reign, right?
Yeah.
Sure. Well, there are a lot of Viking fans. I know plenty out there who like the Valhalla thing because it's Viking heaven. I've heard some people say, but that's where you're going after life.
If you die.
Right.
But still, I mean, I can support that idea in terms of it's a Viking heaven. That's where we go to play. This is, as a Viking fan, this is kind of heaven for us in that respect. You can work with it. So if it picked up, that's fine. Just from the way that from what I see of how the press writes things, refers to things, it's not a foreign word, but kind of. I just have a harder time seeing them go with it. So, and the press has to be won over on this too, because that's where it's going to get its main thing. You and I can talk this on the streets all we want, but if the press is always calling it the Vault or the Purple Palace, that's going to win out over time. So,
Joe is
the
the
name's
press.
not out there yet.
Aren't you?
Pardon me.
You're the press.
Yeah, that darn press. Yes.
You dictate the zeitgeist. So
It's unfortunate that I like the Vault so much.
yeah.
Do you think the name's not out there yet? Nobody's come up with the name.
I don't know. We'll see. I mean, obviously, we'll see over time.
Yeah.
You know.
I've seen the vault more than I've seen anything else.
True. That's what I've seen the most as well too. I was really surprised that because I saw your article. Good job on that article, by the way, Joe.
Right.
Talking about the different names, and I was surprised the Vault only had 8%
Me too.
of the votes from. I don't know how many total. I remember how many total.
It was
voters.
5,000.
5,000.
Yeah.
So that surprised me a little bit. So interesting.
I actually got a lot of feedback from people that are like, we don't need a nickname. Heinz Field isn't called the ketchup bottle. XL Energy isn't called in anything.
Yeah, 'cause, that's really short and it's using the same name, but yeah.
Yeah.
In any event. So that's something out there. Certainly it's going to be something you all listening can talk about and bring up. And if you like the idea, if you want to vote for Purple Palace, that we don't have a voting site for this, but
I could set
you
one
vote
up.
by using it. So and maybe we create something. You guys, you're the our
Tech guy.
tech guy, online geek. So yeah, we'll see.
I'll post a poll when I post this podcast, and we'll see
Sounds good.
what
Sounds
people
good.
think.
All right. Moving along, of course, we're getting into we're recording this now mid-July, which means training camp starting pretty soon.
Dun dun dun.
Yeah. Always kind of a nice time. Summer, it's just like when the Twins go to spring training down south, and everybody has that great feel. It's summertime, it's casual, it's relaxed, but football's coming.
Yeah.
We love that anticipation.
At the
Fans
vault. Oh, sorry. That was the last thing.
getting ready for the Purple Palace and playing Purple Pride and Power there. Okay, enough alliteration, but
Yeah.
But yeah, the team's got to get ready for camp. We open in Mankato. The players report. I believe it's on the Thursday the 28th.
Wow.
Of July, and then that first weekend gets started up with practices, and you can go to Vikings.com to find out the practice schedule and what they've got set up and all that. But and then they'll be in Mankato through that.
Really short time, Skolt.
It is kind of short, yeah.
Training camp?
It is. There's basically that first weekend there that you just described, the next week, and then maybe a couple more days in the following week, and then they're off to Cincinnati to play have two practices in Cincinnati with the Bengals before that first preseason game.
Yeah, against the Bengals.
And that is a short camp. I mean, they're usually there for the better part of 3 weeks,
Yeah.
And they even have days off in this schedule. So
they always
it's going to be slim pickings for fans to get down there.
Definitely.
Really
I mean,
experience it.
I've gone to almost every camp that I can remember. I just turned 32. I've only missed 2 camps, and they're both Randy Moss related. 2005, and then again in 2011. And I remember back in the late 90s, you'd be lucky if the janitor unlocked the bathroom that's underneath the stands. There was nothing. Maybe a vending machine plugged in the random, just in the middle of the parking lot. And it was nice because you had the morning practices, and then you could go get lunch or whatever, and then they had the afternoon practice. And
You said you missed 2 Randy Moss. They were Randy Moss.
Well,
Did he hit you with his car?
No,
in traffic? No.
I wish. I used to jump in front of his car all the time, but he had really good hand-eye coordination, obviously. No, I was protesting. I'm a Moss guy.
Gotcha.
My dad is too. So it's interesting how much it's changed, how much it's been commercialized since the Wilfs came in, but also how maybe I'm assuming the CBA has made it that training camp is just, like you said, it's short, it's easy. There's not a lot of
hitting. There's not as much hitting as there used to be.
Yeah, I mean.
And there's the big blow up guys over in the the beer tent or wherever. You said it's interesting that it's changed. It's not surprising though.
Yeah.
Because there's money to be made down there.
Sure, and they got to do it. So
And
I'm fine with that. I love going down. I will go for sure on Saturday, August the 6th. I picked that day because I know that's when they have their night scrimmage game.
Yeah.
And for all the training camp things that I've gone to, that's one of the best things for really seeing how the team is doing. They've been practicing for at least a week or so there, so they've come along. You're not seeing real rusty, because watching rusty football play, and you'll see this in the exhibition games too, that sometimes gets pretty boring and pretty but they're getting the rust off. But you got the offense going against the defense. The coaches are more into this, and Zimmer, of course, ramps it up with his coaches too. I like that about his coaching style.
As a Skolt is a Mankato native, I have been watching. I know exactly what you're talking about. That was always the peak night of camp for us kids going up to it, and that has changed a little bit too. They're not as hitting as much. It's a passing scrimmage more than anything.
Sure.
And there's going to be some bumping around, but it's I don't think they're bringing anybody to the ground or anything like they used to.
I find it interesting that Peterson came out this week saying that he wants to play until he's 40, but the thing that might force him to retire is the monotony of the off-season programs and training camp. Considering, like we said, it's really not that big of a deal,
But the key word there is monotony.
Yeah,
it's a grind for these guys because they're when you do have 2-a-days, you got to get dressed, you got to get out there, and you may not be working your tail off or hitting everybody. You're still running drills and doing the same drills over. If you're an offensive lineman, oh my God, I don't know how they stay in the game.
Yeah,
sure.
By the end of camp, they got to be going out of their mind. The drills they do, I've sat and watched them before, and oh my goodness, they must be thinking about the money.
Well, that's the thing. Peterson can skip a lot of it, but he won't get that $250,000 bonus.
Right.
So, I mean.
Yeah, but you've heard this from other players over years too. I mean, as a vet, especially, gets way into their career and maybe at the tail end. Even I'm not saying Peterson's at the tail end, but they've been doing this for 10, 15 plus whatever years, and it's that's going to get a little bit boring. I get that, especially when you're in his prime great state. He doesn't have to get in shape. He's going to be, and most of these guys really will be. If they need to get in shape, that's kind of too bad, but hopefully they're doing it then, so they're ready to roll.
It'll be interesting to see how they dictate, like you said, with offensive linemen, we have so much competition and new blood to see, especially like at the right tackle position, who's going to win out.
That's a great point. They're going to be fun to watch at camp.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To watch that battle. That's a really good point.
Definitely more things to watch in it. And sometimes I don't always catch all these things because when I'm at camp, sometimes it's also a big social time. There's plenty of fans hanging around. You get talking about these kind of things. You don't always see every little drill they do because, seeing them push up against a blocking pad again, okay, I've seen them do that 20 times. That's not too much I'm going to take out of that anymore. Hopefully the coaches are, but,
It's not a surprise that we never saw Brett Favre in Mankato.
He knew how to game it.
At the end of his career, I mean, it's the grind that drives him away eventually. They love the guys. They always say, I miss the guys. But you know dang well they don't.
August 17th, 2 years in a row, he came. Yeah, I remember those days well. We're going to digress off of other stories if I go there, but fun times. But that'll be when we're doing a retrospective on the Favre years. We can talk about those things, some good memories though. But camp starts up and we've got the battles.
I'm surprised, not to interrupt you, that they have Load Holt. Maybe this is just out of respect. They have Load Holt listed ahead of Smith on the depth chart right now.
What's the old adage? You should never lose your position because of injury.
Yeah, unless you're
unless
you're Charles Johnson.
Well, to Load Holt's credit, he's the senior member with the team. Smith is coming in new this year, so he should be there to beat him out. We've talked a little bit just amongst ourselves how much does Zimmer do mind games or not, and I don't know that he per se it does, but you give that to Load Holt, and that kind of puts that cookie out there in front of him, though. It's like, this is yours to lose as far as how we see it right now.
I think that's a good sign.
So prove it.
Because
prove that you've got it, big guy. And
there were some people, that myself included, are thinking a guy that's 6'7" that blows out his Achilles, is he even going to be capable of moving backwards and putting his weight on it? So in my mind, if he's, even if it's, just, for a lot of respect, or, it's just a hollow depth chart position,
I saw him at.
he must be able to do what, he must be healthy at least.
well, I'm sure he's been working on that. What have you seen from what you've seen at the
When I was out at
OTAs?
OTAs, which was already a while ago, I saw him early. It was early on at OTAs. It's his first competition. It's his first, time back. He was getting blown past by Daniil Hunter just with ease. Now, granted, this is Daniil Hunter, who I think will bypass most of the guys on the line, but it really stuck out. And by the end of camp, you heard Zimmer saying he's doing good, he's doing all right. So I didn't pay as much attention to it at the end. But I think, like Joe says, it may just be more ceremonial or
That's the
out
word
of
I step
respect.
out my brain.
And he starts out there, and then something changes if he's not able to do it. Now,
Right.
he'd be a great backup if someone else in front of him jumps in front of him and gets hurt, it'd be a good guy to have.
Well, in last year's lesson, you need depth.
Absolutely.
So important on both lines for that matter. You got to have the depth.
And we suddenly have a lot of depth, which is
Well, that's certainly the
pretty
hope.
cool.
Now, Smith doesn't have an injury-free career himself, though, either.
Right.
So, I'm hoping that he really makes it battle and comes in as the free agent trying to prove it. And if he takes it, may the best man win.
The thing is, you got a guy like Mike Harris who was originally a tackle, came in and played a right guard last year. Now he moves back into the depth chart, and he can back up more than one spot, just like Joe Berger, which really is valuable. You got a guy that can step in a couple spots like that. So
For sure, especially on the O-line.
Yeah, there's a lot of depth there, just as you're saying.
We need it. I mean, Sullivan, that back injury is not something that you can.
That's
really
no guarantee,
diminish.
is it?
Yeah,
No, so.
it's bad news.
And I'm sure he's taking care of himself. I'm sure he's doing good. I've only seen good, not a lot, but I've seen good reports about him
And
thus far.
what do they say? You never should. Well, this person with back problem, they say don't get it cut because as soon as you have surgery, you can re-injure it, and you might fix it, but he's going to have those guys forcing down on those huge defensive linemen every play, and you wonder how long something like that can hold up. I hope it does, but we'll see.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see that if they ever spell him a little bit,
Yeah.
just to give him a few snaps off here and there, kind of thing.
That's a good question. You wonder if they would with the center quarterback.
Yeah, that's an important chemistry though that
Yeah.
you have to have, and that's so huge. So, and we'll see. So, we're talking along the offensive side of the ball here right now, and moving on from the O-line, let's go over to the receiver side, which we could eat up the rest of our time. So we got to be careful on this one because it's such a talker. But
Joe doesn't like talking about receivers.
Not at all.
No, not at all. So Joe, you and I can talk while he just watches the clock. What were the last things that you noticed out of OTAs with the receiver core? And I want to first start out with Cordero too.
The last day I was there, I actually talked to Cordero after practice because he had a great practice. It seemed like to me he was the featured receiver. He was getting the ball every other time. They were handing it off around end. He was doing, bubble screens. He was doing catching downfield. He was crossing the middle, and he was catching the ball, and he was in the place where he was supposed to be. All these things that he might not have done so well. I mean, he was running the right play. He was lined up in the right spot.
Was it Teddy throwing it to him?
It was mostly the backup, but Teddy was at times. There was plays that he was in there with the first team. I saw it. So that is a really big takeaway for me. And Joe and I have talked about this about Treadwell. He didn't flash. Pun intended. But I think he's still learning the position, still learning the NFL, and that'll come. But those are probably the two biggest things that you saw. You saw Charles Johnson running with the first team, and he's solid. He's not flashy either, but he is solid.
Not flashy for a 4-2 guy.
Right.
And big guy too.
Yeah, Johnson was the next guy I wanted to ask you about too. So.
I saw him catch a deep pass from Teddy. Actually, it was knocked down for the last minute, but the pass was right on the money. It was one of the. I'm speaking most about the last OTA practice I saw. So, great long ball, was right there, and I can't remember the defender who made the play. It might even have been Terrence Newman, but yeah, it was great to see. I like Charles Johnson. I hope he makes the team, and because I think he's the kind of guy that Zimmer likes, who's solid, who's
sure,
humble.
Yeah,
just a normal guy. And I think most importantly is that he showed at the end of 2014 that he had a good chemistry with Teddy. He got open down the field, wide open a few times, and Teddy connected with him. And that's something that last year, obviously Mike Wallace had zero chemistry with Teddy. They just couldn't get on the same page. Charles Johnson was a big mystery last year. Diggs came in and exploded out of the scene. I mean, he was a rookie sensation, steal of the draft candidate, in my opinion. But it is interesting, like you said, that I think we should kind of go back to Treadwell, I wouldn't say struggling, but a lot of the people said that he was the most pro-ready receiver in the draft, and I've just been surprised by some of the things I've read about his performance or lack thereof. Drop balls, which I think is a mental thing. He's probably thinking too much, trying to absorb a super complex.
They said that about Christian Ponder too when he came here. He was the most pro-rated.
Yeah, because he got his major in 2.5 years, which means nothing at 46.
You got to take a little bit of that with a grain of salt. Some of these guys that are saying the stuff out in front, they know what they're talking about, and maybe that's the case. But I saw him after practice countless times, working on the jugs machine, working with the other players. And that's the first thing you want to see out of a rookie, is someone who really is willing to put in the extra work, put in the work that's doing extra work, and put in the time and really perfect his craft.
Sure.
I've kind of come up with a theory, and I was wondering, with you being at OTAs, if maybe you could talk about this a little bit. But going with Treadwell, there was a run on receivers before we drafted him, so I'm not sure if that's the guy that we wanted. But having a guy who isn't necessarily a down-the-field threat, but was the fastest receiver from 0 to 10 yards, or quickest, I guess is the better way to put it. Do you see the offense moving more towards a short passing game, more than the Air Coryell sort of system, Norv Turner kind of square peg through a round hole?
You sent out an email on that today, and that's an interesting thought. And I think I do. I think he's going to be, once he gets in there and is able to become a part of the offense, you're going to see him being that solid receiver across the middle or short intermediate passes that Teddy's going to be able to find him. I think the fans want the Air Coryell that you're talking about more than Norv Turner does, and I think that Treadwell is tailor-made for that. Right now, that's where Teddy excels, in that passing. I think the offensive line, if it really does come here for like we think it's going to be, that's going to give Teddy time to take a look downfield, maybe hit somebody, and I'm hoping for that. But I really think you're onto something there.
One of my writers, he's a really big stats guy. He just put together. It was really hard for him to find offensive line stats online, but he finally did, and he found out that Teddy was the most pressured quarterback since 2007 last year. And that can't be overstated. And I think there's a lot of people that look at Teddy's down the field percentage and kind of write him off. But at the same time, we really do. We went 11-5 because we're really good at controlling the clock and the field position. And I think getting someone like Treadwell, who can come down with the ball every single time.
When you do what they did for the offensive line this year, it's a signal to Teddy. Everybody wants him to take the next step, but this is the pressure's on. This is his year. He's got to take some kind of step because they invested in, put the people in front of him. That was the biggest problem last year. I totally agree with that stats guy. I mean, he was pressured all the time, and he still made the most of it. I don't think he gets enough credit for that. But then,
very true. No, very true.
And the writer's name is Luke Braun, by the way. I should shout him out for that. But there's really no more. There's really no more excuses, I guess, for Teddy.
Well, I have to watch it because I'm a Teddy boy. I want him to come to my birthday party. So
yeah, you gotta think of a song.
But to the point, though, with the offensive line coming around and the investment there, that's to help him take that next step. And this is in the third year. This is the perfect time for him to do it. The point about it, and that was put out there a number of times, but you still can't overstate it. He was the most pressured quarterback in the league last year. We had way too many broken plays and things that came around. I remember hearing somebody boo one time because he threw the ball away, which was, in the case, the smart play to go with, because you force something and it's an interception, and that's what kills you way, way more. Or you fumble it because you're trying to go too long. And then the next play, Teddy completes a short pass, which gets us a first down, and we're going, I just wanted to go nail the guy, except he was drunk and it would have been worthless, because you can't teach a fool anything. So
I'm pretty sure that was me.
No, it was not. So okay. I would have remembered if it was. So.
He would have hit me if it was.
Yeah, it was an older guy who was had 4 too many already by that point.
Yeah, I was just watching that Amazon Prime Video Arizona Cardinals Hard Knocks ripoff, and just before I left, there was the episode where Freeney, who was like 2 or 3 weeks off of getting picked up from the waiver wire, just completely breaks Khalil's ankles, and it was just Teddy. Maybe I wouldn't say. There's a theory out there that he holds on to the ball a little bit too long. Zimmer brought that up, I think, after one of the first games. But
thinking a little bit too much? Or?
Yeah, I mean, there was the 2 games that and the Broncos game, pretty much, it was the exact same thing. And that's
both ended very similar.
Yeah, I mean, you could run them or superimpose them over each other, and it was almost the exact same thing. And they were both Khalil's fault. So you can't really put that on Teddy, but those are the sort of things that the win or lose games or in the playoffs can either go on in your seasons, and so
it comes together. You have to try to make the breaks. The quarterback ultimately is the one. He's your point guard. He's the one that's really controlling the flow of the game more than any player on the field, and almost in any sport even too. So they get the focus, rightfully so, I would say. But yeah, how much do they think I've got to do it on this play versus another? Live to play another one. Who knows? But we can't read Teddy's mind. I'm not going to try to do that by any means. So we're not getting a lot of time talking about the defense here today. So we want to switch over there.
We'll have another podcast, I think. I hope we're going to have one.
We are going to try to do these as a weekly basis. Yes, coming from the Mermaid. So stay tuned to this. You can catch them here on Vikings Journal. You're going to have them posted on Purple PTSD too, right?
Yeah,
John?
everywhere.
Yeah, if I can post them off my Facebook page, I will be happy to do that and get them out. So yeah, you'll see 3 deep, you'll hear 3 deep coming at you online in whatever fashions that we can. And like we said, if you can come out to when we do these record these things here at the Mermaid, probably 6:30, 7 o'clock-ish will be the time frame. We'll just kind of ballpark that for you, depending on what we need to do to set up, depending on if we have a guest or not coming in, and so we need to account for a little bit of that kind of stuff. But we'd love to have Viking fans come out and join and be part of the discussion, because that is part of the plan for the show, is to have some time where we can have some Viking fan interaction.
Yeah, question and answer.
Not just crazy stuff, but yeah, good question and answer stuff. Good about, okay, this happened last week. What do we think about that? Or what do we see? Or what did we understand? Kind of go from that. You can pick our minds. Who knows? Maybe we do some trivia throughout the year and some contests. We'll see what we can come up with, depending on our sponsors. And we want to thank our sponsors for the show who can help with that. We've got SchoolYourHome.com, who's our realtor sponsor. We're going to have AME Sports, Ryan Marshall owners who are going to be sponsors of the show and going to be involved in this. And we'll have more coming as we bring them on.
McDonald's Liquor.
McDonald's Liquor, another one.
Yep.
We've got to sign the dotted line here, but get that all done, and we can do that. And you can hear that all, and all the talk that's brought to you here from Vikings Journal on 3D.